My name is Thembelihle Ngcai. I am a disability rights activist and turned social entrepreneur. I'm also the chairperson of Disabled Youth South Africa in the Eastern Cape Province. One big systemic barrier that is preventing young people with disabilities particularly from accessing the market and opportunities, not just in Africa, but also just in the South African context. I think there is still a lot of attitudinal barriers. And a lot of people are talking about policy, they're talking about very high level concepts. But as a person with a disability, what we're facing is the inability of corporates, governments, developmental agencies even, and just the ordinary person taking disability seriously or taking persons with disabilities as agents or people with agency and decision makers. So I think a way that we could get a little closer to that and break down those barriers is, of course, awareness, advocacy, but I think more representation of people with lived experience of disability being in these big spaces and really educating from the inside out is one of the ways that we can break that down. But there's just so much more. But I think what we're picking up is just the basics have not yet been really fine-tuned, and we can talk about market access, we can talk about de-risking, and we can talk about social enterprises, but still attitude is something that is standing in between persons with disability accessing real opportunities that speak to them and what they're interested in and what the rest of South Africa and Africa is doing in terms of economic development. I think policymakers have a big job to do in the disability sector or when it pertains to including persons with disabilities. And it's not about cleaning policies up, because we have incredible policies that not only speak to disability on its own, but disability and how we can integrate persons with disabilities within the existing policy frameworks. The issue is that people still perceive disability to be a monolith. And they perceive that once they see a person in a wheelchair, that it represents the interests of other persons with disabilities. And really what we're saying, or what I'm saying, is that policy is informed by the human experience. So when it comes to disability, we must center the human experience, the lived experience, a little bit more when we're drafting. When we're even doing data, François spoke really well about the data that they've conducted as WEF. However, that data is still not representative of the lived experience, or actually just the experiences of persons with disabilities and their development. How much do they spend? How much do they earn? Where are they? What kind of jobs do they have? What kind of skills can they bring to the economy? Why do they want to be social entrepreneurship? What is the social need that they are fulfilling? So I think it's just rooting policy in empirical evidence. And right now, the evidence is only speaking on gender and race. And I think we can go a little bit further and integrate or mainstream disability through data, perhaps, or through it informing policy and policy frameworks. Africa has been a recipient of the Global North's interventions. And I think we're realizing that the Global North has its own agenda. So the Global North has specific interests in the Global South and the development of the Global South in terms of how much they invest, who they invest in. And you'll see MasterCard foundations, big organizations doing incredible work, giving out grants. But the question is, what is in it for them? And Africans are slowly realizing, actually, that the solutions we are looking for are inside the African continent. We have the ideas, we have the solutions. We just perhaps don't trust each other. We not trust each other, but we don't trust ourselves with taking it forward. We are comparing ourselves to other developed nations, but the context is very different. We are looking at each other in the eye, looking at each other and seeing just the depth of poverty that we are facing. And I think now is the time, and this Africa Summit or Africa Forward Summit, and it says Africa Forward, it says, what is happening inside? What are you seeing when you look out your door? What are you walking into the streets? And how do you not wait for somebody from America, from the United Kingdom, from Switzerland to come and tell you how to solve a problem that you actually do have a solution to. And I think the big conversation is always about funding. People want to know, how can I fund my idea? And we're still looking to the global north. We're still looking at economic forums and organizations that have a global footprint. And what we're realizing is that the interests that they have are not necessarily aligned to African development. They are aligned to what serves them best. And that is in no way to say we should disregard these international organizations, but it's just a reality check that the global north in many ways has plundered. It is part of the reason some of us do not have resources in the African continent. How do you reserve your own resources and chart your own way forward from the inside out? I'm chairperson of Disabled Youth South Africa in the Eastern Cape Province. Deep economic fault lines, deep inequity even between persons with disabilities themselves. A lot of people would regard me, and like I said, I'm chairperson, so a lot of people regard me to be at a different level or pitching at a different level. And the reality is that the more we divide ourselves, the more we look to each other as having differences rather than similarities, the more the solutions won't come, the more fragmented and uncoordinated our efforts will be. So for me, young people need to really put aside the insecurities about my idea is not good enough. I don't speak as well. I'm not as fluent in a certain space. You should be here. You should be saying, I know Africa Forward Summit is taking place. I want to go there. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I do know my story. I do know what the solutions are for my community. And I know that if I just say it in a way that is authentic to me and that is authentic to the community I serve, somebody will be listening. So I think one of the ways the youth can really step up is do not be satisfied with where you are. Do not be satisfied with the little that you are being given. And that goes for anything, positions, opportunities. Don't say you are being done a favor. Don't say it's because I'm youth. Challenge that. Cement yourself in these spaces. And even if you're unsure, just go out there and try bring a different perspective, because we all coming with different perspectives and there really is no one like you. So don't be intimidated by these big spaces. You have a lot to contribute and you only need to trust yourself. Imposter syndrome is real for young people. They've been disadvantaged. They've been looked over. They've been passed over for opportunity. And this is an opportunity for them to say, maybe I'm not getting the opportunities traditionally. How can I create pathways for opportunities for myself where I do what I like, how I like it? And I also rope any other young people who are like-minded and who really want to change the status quo of South Africa and the African continent in general.